Walking. Most do it every day. Many of us begrudgingly. To get some people out of their seats, you have to turn it into some kind of game. We track our steps, our heart rates. In the present day, there exist businesses whose sole function is to coax us into engaging in low-impact cardiovascular activity for a profit. If it weren't for them, we'd probably all die. I've never been much of an exercise aficionado, but I've always loved the clarity that a good long walk provides. Bonus points if you can perform the task in a wooded area, or you can listen to the animals and be left alone with your thoughts. Somewhere outside of bear country, preferably. I never really was a nature person until I was in my mid to late 20s. When I was younger, I was more of a city guy. I liked the energy and the feeling that at any second you could make a new friend or get yourself into an adventure that could last all day. There's something about the smell of fresh urine in the morning, the endless chatter of the jackhammer, and the symphony of car horns blaring back and forth. The great outdoors were a different story. I think it took me more time to see the beauty of what us city folk who've developed allergic reactions to fresh air now collectively refer to as the environment. As a child, I'd always went on family vacations to northern Michigan or to see relatives in West Virginia. I always appreciated the experience, but would quickly become bored. After 3 or 4 days, I was always ready to get home. As I've aged, I've begun to find more and more peace in nature. Maybe it took so long because I was never really into lake-based activities, and that's what my family always liked to do. Also, I was and still am a bit of a control freak, so I wasn't a fan of being dragged behind the boat in an inner tube at high speeds. I've since discovered that what I like to do about going to rural areas is simply exploring. Driving around the back roads, going for short hikes, things like that. At the tail end of 2017, I developed strange stomach pains. After a battery of tests, nothing significant showed up, so we're just operating under the assumption that I'm crazy now. I've always been a hypochondriac and probably should be on brain pills in all honesty. I spent the whole year of 2018 thinking that I had cancer or some other terrible ailment. Getting drunk every night was my main thrill in life up until that point, and probably the source of my affliction. I retired from alcohol and took up exploring nature as a replacement vice. Now I've become somewhat knowledgeable with regards to the different trail systems located around my home. I've yet to really check anything out in Oakland County. This is despite the fact that I know many of its cities pretty well due to traveling around the area for work. I mostly avoid seeing what they have to offer because anytime I'm in Oakland County, all I can think about is getting out of Oakland County. The area I live in, known locally as Downriver, isn't really the kind of place you'd imagine when you think of beautiful scenery. But if you look hard, it has many merits, hidden gems. I don't know if it technically counts as downriver, but Point Moulet has some of the best views I've ever seen in my life, not just around here, anywhere. It's been a favorite spot of mine for over a decade. I'm indebted to the people who took me there the first time. I'd say most of the people who live around here don't even know that something like this exists, and all within a very short ride. Another place that I've always liked to walk is at the Southgate Nature Center. It's a really special place right next to Anderson High School. If you've never been there, it's certainly worth a visit. At first it seems a little small, but if you explore all the trails and follow the creek down to the end, you'll be getting at least 45 minutes of recreational activity. In my hometown, there's Heritage Park, which in the summertime gets swarmed with people. Most of them stick to the big track that goes around the baseball field, the children's play area, where they walk around the pond. But the absolute best part of Heritage Park is the woods behind all of the riffraff. It's not a very long walk if you stick to the main path, but if you go down some of the lesser-used trails, you'll find lots to take in. The road that leads back here used to be closed to motor vehicle traffic, and people were rarely around because of this. In the last few years, the city has opened it up for some reason. Now it gets invaded when spring comes. There's a lot more traffic now, but it's still pretty nice. Most of it seems to be teenagers trying to smoke dope in their cars or perform other not safe for work activities that I'm not going to mention here. The Henry Ford Estate in Dearborn is also very nice. It's not downriver, but it's located very close depending on where you're from. You get a nice scenic walk along the Rouge River. There's a pretty garden on the side of the house. The trails there are part of a much longer system, I believe. I always stop and turn around before Michigan Avenue. I remember during the early days of the pandemic I came back here and there was a morbidly obese man taking photographs of birds. He was harassing everybody who passed by him to move faster because they weren't wearing masks. I'd have been afraid too if I weighed over 400 pounds. There are plenty of other small trails around here, but these are my favorites to walk. There are also the metro parks, and you can pay to walk around here, but I haven't been to many. The trails also seem to be paved, which I'm not very interested in. I prefer to walk on dirt. It's easier on the knees, the back, the feet. I don't get as fatigued, and as a bonus, walking on dirt just makes me feel more immersed in my surroundings. I've found that taking up long walks after being sedentary for so long has provided a great boost to my mental health. When I'm out walking, I try to empty my mind and focus only on the sights and sounds around me. I try to blend into my surroundings as much as possible, to cease to exist in a way. It's a great escape from the daily routine. Some of my greatest memories in life are of long walks taken alone. The longer the better. The further I go, the more it seems like I can focus on what really matters to me and not the superficial trappings of life. It's like the layers of reality all melt away until my mind is at peace and focused on what's happening in the current moment. So many people care about things that don't matter at all and waste their lives chasing nothing. Many times I've experienced the bliss that comes with a long walk while strolling around the woods of northern Michigan or cities like San Francisco, Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Virginia Beach. I can remember details of many of my favorite walks that I've ever had, what I was thinking about at the time, if I happened to be thinking at all. There's nothing quite like the feeling of being a nameless face in the crowd, an empty space, soaking in all that the world has to offer. I've always had this strange feeling that I wasn't an active participant in life, that I'm just here to observe, like I'm pure consciousness meant to move and watch what everybody else is doing and maybe crack stupid jokes about it on the side. As soon as my presence is acknowledged, especially if someone says my name when I'm in my own head, it's startling to be reminded that I too am a person and not some force that exists outside of the world. When I'm out exploring, everything strips away and I feel the most like myself. I don't understand how people can live without going out into nature at all or even going on long hikes in the city. I know that I need to at least once a week. Outside of making art, I'd say that these small experiences are some of the most important things to me in my life. They keep me sane and grounded. All alone with myself, just walking, being alive. I don't think I could enjoy a life without it.